My name is Cassidy Ainsworth. I'm 30 years old, and for 6 years I have been in a relationship with a man I thought I knew better than anyone on this planet. For the last 3 of those years, we've shared a 2-bedroom apartment in Chicago, exposed brick, drafty windows, and a kitchen that's too small for 2 people, but somehow always felt big enough for our future. At least that's what I used to believe. His name is Evan Hale. When we met, he was a broke grad student with a secondhand laptop that overheated if he opened more than 3 tabs. I was already working as a junior graphic designer, taking on freelance gigs at night just to keep us floating. I covered more dinners back then. I paid more of the rent. I picked up his prescriptions when his anxiety got bad before exams. I made little notes and stuck them onto his textbooks. You've got this. 5 more pages. I believe in you. I didn't resent it. I was proud of him. Proud of us. I told myself that's what love is, leaning more when the other person is shaky, knowing one day they'll lean back. And in a way, he did. After he graduated and landed his job at a tech company downtown, things evened out. We split bills more. He took me to dinner at places we couldn't afford before. He surprised me once with a weekend trip to a cabin by the lake. He held me at night and said things like, "We're just getting started, Cass. Imagine where we'll be in 5 years." For a long time, I imagined exactly that. Then, 2 months ago, everything changed. Evan got a massive promotion. Regional campaigns, leadership meetings, big launch events, the kind of thing he'd dreamed about when he was still hunched over that dying laptop. When he told me, I hugged him so hard he almost dropped his phone. I cried, honestly, because it felt like proof that everything we'd sacrificed meant something. He started traveling more, flying out to client sites and strategy offsites I could never keep straight. At first, it was exciting. He'd text me pictures from hotel rooms with city views or snapshots of conference badges. I'd reply with stupid memes or pouty selfies so he'd remember what he had waiting at home, as I joked. Then the tone of everything shifted, almost imperceptibly at first. He started coming home later. "Team dinner ran long," he'd say, kissing the top of my head as he moved past me toward the shower. Or, "Networking event, babe. You know how important these are." I did know. I'd listened to him talk for hours about corporate politics, about visibility and strategy, and playing the game. I wanted to be supportive. So I swallowed my disappointment when the takeout I ordered for us went cold on the counter. I told myself this was just a season. Busy, intense, temporary. But the changes didn't stop, they grew. Evan's wardrobe upgraded almost overnight. There were shirts I'd never seen before, tailored suits, sleek shoes I knew weren't on sale anywhere. Shopping bags from high-end stores appeared in the bedroom, along with receipts he crumpled just a little too fast. He'd stand in front of the mirror longer than he used to, adjusting his collar, smoothing his hair, studying himself with a small, private smile. Not the goofy grin he used to give me when I walked into the room in pajama shorts and messy hair. This was something cooler, sharper, like he was admiring a version of himself the world had finally caught up to. His phone became an extension of his hand. He'd sit at the edge of the couch, fingers flying across the screen, lip twitching with an amused little half-smile I didn't recognize. When I'd say, "Hey, what's so funny?" he'd lock the phone instinctively, then relax and shrug. "Just work stuff," he'd say. "Late?" "Always late," he'd reply, like it was a joke. Our conversations, once sprawling and intimate and stupidly detailed, shrank into bullet points. "How was your day?" "Busy. You?" "Same." If I tried to talk about our future, a house someday, maybe a dog, the fact that our lease was up in a few months, he'd tense up. "Can we not do this tonight, Cass? I'm exhausted." At first, I tried to be understanding. Then I tried to be patient. Then I tried to pretend I didn't see what I was seeing. The night I found the hotel receipt, the pretending stopped. It was a Tuesday. We'd argued that morning about something small that didn't feel small in the moment. His constant late arrivals, the way he brushed off my attempts to connect with a kiss, and a "we'll talk later." He'd texted midday, "Evan, sorry about this morning. Long day. I'll be at a networking dinner after work. Might crash at a colleague's place if it runs late. Love you." I stared at the message. I replied, "Okay, love you too. Be safe." He came home the next evening, like nothing had happened. The following day, he texted me from work and asked, "Hey, can you move my car later? Street cleaning notice on the app." So there I was, digging through his messenger bag and then his coat pockets for his car keys. I couldn't find them. Finally, I went to the small credenza by the door where he sometimes tossed things. His work bag was there, open just enough for the contents to spill out if you weren't careful. I told myself I was just looking for keys. I reached in. My fingers brushed a cold metal keychain, and then a folded slip of paper tucked into a side pocket. I pulled it out. Hotel Montclair, Chicago. Downtown room, 1914. Amount, $412.67. Date, Tuesday. My chest went hollow. For a second, I thought there had to be a mistake. The date, the location, the total. I scanned the receipt like inspecting it harder would change the ink. The name on the loyalty account was blurred by the thermal print, but I could make out E. Hale. There were charges itemized for room service, 2 entrees, 2 drinks, late checkout fee. 2. I felt something inside me detach, like a picture frame slipping off a nail and crashing behind my ribs. He had told me he stayed at a colleague's place, that it was just networking, that I was making everything into a drama. I stood in the hallway, staring at the receipt, my heart pounding in my ears, so loudly the actual apartment around me went quiet. Our photos on the wall, us at the lake, us in front of the bean, us surrounded by friends at some crowded bar, looked back at me like stills from someone else's life. When he came home that night, I didn't plan a speech. I didn't rehearse. I held the receipt in my hand and waited for the sound of his key in the lock. He stepped in, dropped his bag, kissed my cheek automatically. "Hey, babe." I didn't kiss him back. "Evan," I said. My voice sounded calm. Too calm. "What's this?" I held up the receipt. He glanced at it. For half a second, something flashed in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or calculation. Then it was gone, replaced by a frown that was more annoyance than guilt. "Oh, that?" he said, like I'd shown him a parking ticket. "Client thing." "A $400 client thing at the Montclair?" I asked. "On a Tuesday? You told me you stayed at a colleague's place." He exhaled sharply through his nose, eyebrows pinching. "Cass, come on. It was a late client meeting. The team decided to just book a room and keep talking. I didn't think I needed to submit every second of my schedule for approval." "That's not what I'm asking," I said. "Why did you lie?" He rolled his eyes. That hurt more than the receipt. "Jesus, Cassidy, not everything is some conspiracy. You're spiraling again. This is exactly what I mean when I say your insecurity makes everything about you." My throat tightened. "My insecurity?" "Yes," he said, voice sharp now. "You see one receipt and suddenly I'm cheating, I'm lying, I'm living a double life. Do you hear yourself?" I did hear myself. I heard the tremor in my own words. I heard the desperation I hated. "You said you were at a colleague's place," I repeated softly. "That's not what this is." "I didn't think it mattered how I phrased it," he snapped. "We were working. I crashed there. End of story." "Why are you trying to pick a fight?" "Because I was scared," I thought. Because my gut had been twisting for weeks, and this piece of paper felt like confirmation of a nightmare I wasn't ready to name. Instead, I said, "I just want the truth." He stared at me, jaw clenched, then shook his head with a disbelieving little laugh. "Unbelievable. I get promoted, I'm busting my ass, and instead of being proud, you're hunting for hotel receipts like some detective. This is exhausting, Cass. You're exhausting." Those words landed like a slap I hadn't braced for. Somewhere in the argument, the receipt slipped from my fingers and drifted to the floor, landing face up between us. A white rectangle, innocent and damning. I wish I could say I held my ground, that I laid out boundaries, lines in the sand, demand for respect. Instead, I felt shame flare hot and choking in my chest. What if I was overreacting? What if I was paranoid? What if years of trying to be good enough had turned me into the insecure girlfriend I swore I'd never be? "I'm sorry," I heard myself say. The words tasted like ash. Maybe I blew it out of proportion. His shoulders relaxed instantly. "Thank you," he said, like I'd finally given him what he deserved. He picked up the receipt, crumpled it, and tossed it into the trash. "Next time, just trust me, okay?" He walked past me into the bedroom, already unbuttoning his shirt. The conversation to him was over. That night, I lay beside him in the dark, listening to his breathing even out as he drifted off. The city hummed faintly outside our window. A streetlight cast a pale strip of light across the ceiling, and I stared at it until my eyes burned. It was 2:00 in the morning. He slept like a man who had nothing to worry about. I lay there like a woman who felt the floor beneath her life start to tilt. Was I really just insecure, or was something very wrong? I kept replaying the look on his face when I'd shown him the receipt. Not fearful, not guilty, just irritated, like I was a problem he needed to manage, not someone he loved. I used to know every version of his expression: the furrow line between his brows when he was concentrating, the crinkle at the corner of his eyes when he laughed, the way his gaze softened when he looked at me across a crowded room. Lately, when he looked at me, all I saw was impatience. I thought of those late nights, the new clothes, the secretive smiles at his phone, the hotel receipt with 2 entrees and 2 drinks. Maybe I was insecure, or maybe my instincts were finally screaming loud enough that I couldn't drown them out anymore. When someone you love starts treating you like you're invisible, how do you know if you're supposed to fight for them or start protecting yourself? I didn't know it yet, but that crumpled receipt in our trash can wasn't the end of the story. It was the first visible crack in a carefully painted life that was about to shatter. 3 days passed after the hotel receipt incident, and instead of feeling reassured by Evan's explanations, I felt like my sanity was slowly unraveling thread by thread. He acted normal, too normal, like the argument had been a brief commercial break in our relationship, nothing more. But I wasn't the same. Every time he left the apartment, my chest tightened. Every time his phone buzzed, I flinched. Every time he smiled at his screen, a cold pulse ran down my spine. I had apologized, but the apology felt like a betrayal of myself. I kept telling myself I would trust him, but your mind remembers what your heart tries to forget, especially when the evidence won't stop presenting itself. Evan woke early the morning. Everything fell apart. He showered, dressed sharply for work, sprayed the expensive cologne I didn't know he owned until a month ago, and kissed my cheek on the way out. "Long day ahead," he said. He always had a long day ahead lately. After he left, I sat alone at the kitchen table, staring at the place where the hotel receipt had landed on the floor. I felt ridiculous, an adult woman frozen by a scrap of paper. But something in me already knew the truth. The receipt wasn't the whole story. It was just the surface tension. The message underneath was still waiting. I didn't go looking for it. The universe delivered it to me. It was 3 days later, a quiet Saturday. Rain tapped at the windows. I was making coffee, wearing one of Evan's old hoodies, the soft gray one he'd stopped wearing since his promotion. Evan was in the shower. His laptop was open on the kitchen table, screen glowing with his work Slack. He'd left it there, unlocked, idling, almost carelessly. I wasn't snooping. I wasn't creeping up behind him with intentions of invading his space. I was stirring cream into my coffee. Then, a notification popped up. It stayed on the corner of his laptop screen for exactly 2 seconds, but 2 seconds was enough to destroy 6 years of my life. From Alexis Monroe, VP Marketing, message: "Last night was incredible. You looked irresistible. Couldn't focus at the meeting today." The cup in my hand stopped moving. The spoon slipped against the mug and clinked loudly. For a full heartbeat, I forgot how to breathe. Alexis Monroe, his VP, his ex-girlfriend, the woman he assured me was strictly professional, barely even friendly, not his type anymore. Irresistible. Last night was incredible. The clang of the spoon must have echoed through the apartment because I didn't hear anything except the pounding of my blood in my ears. My hands shook violently as I lifted my phone. I didn't think. I didn't blink. I simply reacted. I took a screenshot. My finger trembled so hard I had to take 2 more. Then the message disappeared. The bubble faded like it had never existed. But my phone held the truth now. Frozen. Undeniable. Merciless. The bathroom door opened. Steam drifted out. Evan walked into the kitchen shirtless, towel around his waist, hair damp. He saw my face immediately. He froze. "Cass?" I didn't answer. I turned my phone toward him, displayed the screenshot. And just like when I had shown him the hotel receipt, his eyes flickered. Not with guilt, not with fear, but with calculation, as if he were flipping through a mental Rolodex of excuses, searching for the most convenient one. "Cassidy," he said slowly, "this isn't what you think. It is exactly what I think." My voice surprised me. It was steady, cold even. "Incredible? Irresistible? Last night?" He took a step toward me. I stepped back. "Cass, she flirts with everyone. I can't control what she sends me." "Evan," I said, "the message says last night was incredible." He swallowed hard. His jaw flexed. I watched every adjustment on his face, the shift from panic to defense, from defense to manufactured vulnerability. Then he started to cry. But the tears didn't match his eyes. His eyes stayed cold, sharp, measuring. "Cass, I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I never wanted you to see that. It's not what it looks like, I swear to you." "What is it then?" I asked. "Because it looks like you slept with your ex-boss." He brushed his hands over his face, dragging out the tremble in his voice. I didn't sleep with her, he said. It was just emotional. I've been feeling unappreciated. You've been distant. My lungs burned, my heart stung, but not from sadness, from the audacity. Evan, I said softly, you cheated on me emotionally? He nodded. He actually nodded, like expecting praise for the phrasing. But nothing physical happened, he claimed. It was just a connection that went too far. I should have told you, but I didn't want to hurt you. How long? I whispered. He hesitated for a fraction of a second, barely visible, but enough. A few weeks. Later, I would learn the truth was months. But in that moment, even the lie felt like a punch. And the hotel? He winced. Cass, I swear, nothing physical happened. We were working late. It just blurred. Blurred. Blurred into a luxury hotel room with 2 meals and a late checkout? He stepped closer. I'm sorry, Cass. I love you. I do. Please don't give up on us. My heart cracked, but not in the way he expected. Instead of breaking for him, it broke for the version of myself who had believed him so blindly. I didn't kick him out. I should have. But I couldn't. Not after 6 years. Not when my hands were still shaking so hard I could barely hold my phone. We decided on a 2-week break. A pause. A breath. A space to heal, as he called it. Evan packed a bag. While zipping it closed, his watch lit up with a notification. I didn't mean to look. It was instinct. A burned reflex. Name on his screen, Alexis M. He tilted the watch away from me quickly. My final glance before he shut the apartment door was the look on his face. The same look he gave me over the hotel receipt. Not fear, not guilt, just irritation. As if I was the one derailing his life. As if I had caught him in an inconvenience, not a betrayal. The door clicked shut. The apartment fell silent. And I realized this wasn't the beginning of trust rebuilding. It was the beginning of truth unraveling. Something worse than the hotel receipt was coming. Much worse. I could feel it like a storm gathering pressure in the air. The silence after Evan left wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, thick with questions, doubt, and that eerie stillness that happens right before a building collapses. For the first few days of our break, I kept expecting clarity to arrive like a package I could unwrap. Some neat explanation that would make all of this make sense. But clarity didn't come. Reality did. Piece by brutal piece. On the 3rd day, I dragged myself out of the apartment for the first time. It was cold, windy, the kind of Chicago cold that snaps at your bones. I walked without direction, hands shoved in the pockets of my oversized coat, tracing streets I didn't even recognize, because my mind was somewhere else entirely. The city felt unfamiliar, or maybe it was me who had become unfamiliar to myself. When I got home, my phone buzzed with a message from Mia. Mia was a friend of mine long before she was an HR associate at Evan's company. We'd met years ago at a design workshop, bonded over crappy office coffee, and stayed connected ever since. Her message was short, unusually short. Mia, Cass, call me. It's about Evan, and you need to hear it from me. My stomach flipped. My hands, cold from the wind, shook harder as I pressed the call button. She picked up immediately. Cassidy? Her voice was soft, hesitant. Yeah, I'm here. Are you alone? Yes. Her breath wavered, like she was preparing to break something fragile. Okay, she said. Then I'm going to be honest with you. Everything I'm about to tell you is office gossip, but it's also office gossip that hasn't changed in months. My pulse thudded. Tell me, I whispered. And she did. Everyone at the company knows about Evan and Alexis, she said. Knows. What exactly? That they've been involved. Mia didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't stumble. She didn't backtrack. She delivered the truth like a blade she'd been forced to sharpen. She continued, voice trembling with reluctant certainty. It isn't emotional, Cass. Not the way Evan told you. They've been traveling together for months, sharing hotel rooms, sometimes even checking in under her corporate account. People talk. People notice. There are jokes about them at staff happy hours. The words slammed into me, each one heavier than the last. She's his VP, I managed. Exactly, Mia replied. And that's what makes it worse. People think he's benefiting from the relationship, that it helped him get his promotion. I pressed a hand to my mouth as if that could keep the nausea down. This wasn't just infidelity, it was strategy, a calculated alliance, a career move disguised as a love affair, or maybe the other way around, which felt even worse. And Cass, her voice dipped. There's more. I closed my eyes. Just say it. There were rumors about the Montclair trip. The big campaign meeting? The one where Evan told you he stayed with colleagues because things ran late? I opened my eyes. The room around me tilted slightly. The entire marketing team saw Evan and Alexis come down to breakfast together, same clothes as the night before. A metallic ringing filled my ears. The hotel receipt flashed in my mind. 2 entrees, 2 drinks, late checkout. I hadn't been paranoid. I had been the only person left out of the narrative. Everyone else was already watching unfold. When the call ended, I sat in absolute stillness. No tears, no screams, just numbness, so deep it felt like drowning underwater, silent, slow, crushing. 6 years. 6 years thinking we were building something real. 6 years believing in a man who had treated loyalty like an optional add-on instead of a foundation. And the worst part? I didn't even hate him. Not yet. Hate is a fire. I was ice. Frozen, suspended, not fully alive. The part of me that still loved him was breaking, molecule by molecule, and the part of me that had doubted myself, that had believed his gaslighting, was beginning to burn with something dangerous. Clarity. That night, I went through our apartment like I was walking through a museum of a life that no longer belonged to me. The photos on the fridge, the messy bookshelf he kept saying he'd organize, the hoodie draped over the back of a chair, his cologne bottle on the dresser, the plant he bought because adult apartments need greenery, even though he never watered it. I touched nothing. I didn't have to. Every object had already changed meaning. They weren't memories anymore. They were evidence. Proof of how thoroughly I'd been deceived. At around midnight, I finally broke. The tears came quietly, slow, exhausted, as if dragged up from a place that was tired of being ignored. I curled up on the couch, clutching a pillow to my chest, and whispered into the darkness, "Why wasn't I enough?" But even as the words escaped, something inside me, small but fierce, responded, "This isn't about you not being enough. This is about him never being honest." And once I heard that truth, I couldn't unhear it. It rang louder than my tears. I didn't contact him. I didn't answer his messages. I didn't reach out to confirm or accuse or scream. I needed to breathe, to survive the free fall, to decide what came next. After hours of staring at the ceiling in that dark, silent living room, one thing became painfully clear. I was done pretending this was salvageable. I was done hoping he would become a man he had never been. I was done loving someone who had weaponized my trust. I made a decision that night, quiet and solid. I would not take Evan back. Not after this. Not ever. I wasn't sure how to move forward, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going backward. Not for him. Not for a lie. Not for the life he had built on top of my faith. This was the moment the relationship truly ended. He just didn't know it yet. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks that felt both endless and strangely cleansing. I wasn't healed, not even close, but I had stopped spiraling. I was finally sleeping again. I'd started seeing a therapist. I was going to the gym, rediscovering muscles I didn't know I had. I even went on 2 dates with a sweet guy from my yoga class. Not because I was ready for anything serious, but because I needed to remind myself that I wasn't unlovable. Healing isn't a straight line. Sometimes it's a loop, sometimes a scribble, sometimes a cliff. You throw yourself off, hoping you land on something soft. But I was moving. For the first time in months, I was moving forward. And then, life decided to snap the wheel again. It was a stormy Tuesday night, one of those relentless Chicago rains that sounded like someone was shaking gravel against the windows. I'd just finished brushing my teeth, lights already dimmed, my apartment warm and cozy in that small, sacred way a home becomes after heartbreak. Then, a knock. Not a gentle knock, a frantic pounding knock. My stomach dropped. No one knocks like that unless something is wrong, or unless someone is desperate. And for a flashing, dreadful moment, I knew. I didn't even have to check the peephole. My heart recognized him before my eyes did. I opened the door, and there he was, Evan Hale, soaked to the bone, shivering, rain plastering his hair to his forehead, eyes red and swollen. Whether from crying or the storm, I couldn't tell. He looked wrecked. Not stylish, poised Evan. Not polished after promotion Evan. This was a man whose world had dropped out from under him. "Cass," he choked out, "please." And even after everything, 6 years doesn't disappear overnight. Compassion doesn't evaporate instantly. I stepped aside, let him in, got him a towel. My instinct was still to take care of him. That was my biggest flaw. My heart kept handing out rescue lines, even to the person who tied the anchor around my ankle. He sat on my couch, dripping rainwater onto the cushions, clutching the towel like it could keep him from falling apart. I stayed standing. Distance was the only protection I had left. "What's going on?" I asked quietly. He swallowed hard, voice trembling. "Everything's ruined, Cass. Everything." I said nothing. He kept talking. "Alexis, her husband, found out." His voice cracked. "Not just about us, about everything. The trips, the hotels, the messages. He's threatening to go to the board, to HR, to the media. He's saying we violated ethics policies. He's going to destroy us both." Us. The word made my skin crawl. There was no us. Not anymore. Maybe not ever. I folded my arms. "And what exactly does this have to do with me, Evan?" He inhaled sharply, as if preparing to dive into cold water. His eyes lifted to mine, desperate, pleading, frantic. "Cassidy, I need your help." There it was. The truth. The reason he was here. Not out of love, not out of guilt. Out of necessity. My heart hardened. What kind of help? He set the towel aside, hands shaking, voice small. "I need you to say we were still together during that time." For a moment, I genuinely thought I'd misheard. "Excuse me? If you can just tell HR that we never broke up," he rushed out, "that I was loyal, that nothing happened with Alexis, then everything falls apart. All her accusations look false. I just need you to say we were a happy couple during those months. If you just back me up." I held up a hand. "Stop." He froze. "Evan," I said slowly, "you want me to lie? To HR? To your company? To the board? About the months you were cheating on me?" He winced like I'd slapped him. "Cass, please, you don't understand. My career, my entire future is on the line." "And mine wasn't?" The words burst out before I could stop them. "You destroyed us. You blew up my life. And now you want me to fix yours?" He ran his hands over his face and let out a broken sob. "Please, you're the only one who knows me. Really knows me. You know I'm not a bad person. I just made mistakes. Please, Cass, please." I stared at him. At the man I'd once planned to marry. At the man who had dismissed me, gaslighted me, lied to me, betrayed me. He hadn't come because he loved me. He'd come because I was useful. He didn't want redemption. He wanted cover, a shield, a witness he could manipulate again. And something inside me finally snapped. Quietly, cleanly, irreversibly. "I'm not helping you," I said. My voice was calm, too calm. "I'm not lying for you. I'm not protecting you. Not anymore." His tears vanished, instantly, like someone flipped a switch. His face twisted, cold, angry, ugly. "So that's it?" he spat. "You're seriously going to let my life burn down? You're that vindictive?" "Vindictive?" I laughed once, humorless. "You cheated on me, for months." "That was a mistake." "No," I said firmly. "It was a choice, and now you get the consequences." "You're selfish," he snapped. "You want to punish me because you're jealous of my success. You always were." And for the first time in this entire ordeal, I felt absolutely nothing for him. No guilt, no doubt, no love, just clarity. Ice cold and liberating. "Get out," I said. He blinked. "What?" "Get out." He stood, dripping water onto my rug, his jaw clenched, eyes narrowing. "You'll regret this," he hissed. "You're ruining my life." I opened the door. The storm roared outside like a warning. A perfect soundtrack for the moment I finally chose myself. "You ruined your own life, Evan," I said quietly. "I'm just refusing to lie about it." He stormed out, slamming the door so hard my neighbor texted to check on me. The moment the latch clicked shut, I exhaled a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. My hands were shaking, my heart was racing, but deep in my chest, a tiny flame of peace sparked to life. I didn't save him, I saved myself. And I had no idea the story was about to get even messier. Evan wasn't done with me. Not by a long shot. The morning after Evan stormed out of my apartment, I woke up with swollen eyes and a sour knot in my stomach, but also with the strange, unmistakable feeling that something inside me had shifted. Choosing myself should have felt triumphant, but survival rarely feels like victory in the moment. It feels like aftermath, debris, silence. I made coffee, wrapped myself in a blanket on the couch, and tried to breathe through the emotional hangover. That peace lasted exactly 9 minutes, because at 9:14 a.m., my phone began buzzing like it was about to detonate. The first message came from my friend Tara. "Tara, Cass, what the hell is happening? Are you okay? Why are people posting about you?" Then from a coworker. "Ben, hey, I don't know what's going on LinkedIn, but heads up, you're trending in a company thread." Then from Mia. "Mia, he did something, didn't he? I'm hearing Things. Then from a number I didn't recognize. Unknown. Stop harassing women who are more successful than you. Get help. My blood turned to ice. I opened LinkedIn, and there it was. A post freshly uploaded that morning. From a burner account. I knew immediately it was Evan's wording, his tone, his self-justifying rhythm, but posted under the name Professional Integrity Watchdog. It read, "Sad to see an ex-partner become vindictive after a breakup. Some people can't handle seeing their successful boyfriend rise in his career. Spreading lies, contacting HR, and harassing female executives is not okay. Jealousy is pathetic. Hope she gets the help she needs." The comments were exactly what you'd expect. Quick, cruel, confident in their ignorance. Classic bitter ex. Some people can't let go. Women like this ruin men's careers. And worst of all, someone had already connected the dots. Isn't this about Evan Hale from Stratus Media, the one whose ex was named Cassidy? My name, in a public thread, attached to a lie I didn't create and couldn't stop. My hands shook violently, not from sadness, from rage, from disbelief, from the staggering audacity of a man who cheated, lied, begged, manipulated, and now had the nerve to cast himself as the victim and me as the villain. The world wasn't just upside down, it was inside out. I called Mia immediately. "Tell me everything," I said, skipping hello. She exhaled sharply. "Cass, he's trying to get ahead of the investigation." "What investigation? What's actually happening over there?" There was a pause, a long, heavy pause. Then she said, "Evan and Alexis are both under formal review. HR is interviewing everyone they've traveled with. Corporate integrity is involved. They're looking at everything." Everything? Hotel receipts, travel reimbursements, keycard access records, even the client payments from those trips. My breath caught. "So they already have evidence." "A lot," she confirmed. "Honestly, Cass, Evan's spin online won't save him. Not this time." But I wasn't worried about his career anymore. I was worried about mine. Because he'd dragged me into the mud to save his own skin. "I'm being attacked on LinkedIn," I said numbly. "I know," Mia whispered. "I saw. And so did HR." My heart dropped. "What?" "Cass. They know he posted it." "How?" "Because he posted it using his personal Wi-Fi network. And the company tracks employee network activity when they log into Slack from home. He wasn't subtle." I froze. The shock was so sharp, it was almost funny. Evan, the man who orchestrated Hotel Rendezvous like he was starring in a corporate romance fantasy, was undone by the most basic digital footprint imaginable. "So they know he's lying," I said. "They know," she confirmed. "And the investigation continues regardless." A wave of relief washed over me, so sudden I almost cried. Not because Evan was facing consequences, but because I realized I didn't have to fight him. The truth was fighting for itself. Still, the online rumors kept spreading throughout the day. People who didn't know me, people who barely remembered me, people who remembered me too well. Everyone had an opinion. Everyone wanted drama. Everyone believed the louder storyteller. And Evan was very loud. Desperation has a volume to it, and his was deafening. By sunset, I had received 17 accusatory messages, 11 supportive ones, 4 offers to talk about what really happened from strangers, and 3 separate DMs accusing me of seeking attention. It felt like drowning in a crowd. I blocked the burner account. I locked down my own page. I changed my privacy settings. But the damage was already circulating. Rumors spread like smoke. They don't need facts, only oxygen. By evening, I did the only thing left to do. I blocked Evan on everything. Phone, email, socials, all of it. I wasn't going to give him another doorway into my life. I had spent too long letting him define the narrative. Now, I was taking it back. Piece by piece, boundary by boundary, breath by breath. That night, for the first time in a long time, I slept deeply. Not because everything was okay, but because I finally understood something that had taken months of pain to learn. You don't have to clear your name to the people who want you to be guilty. You only have to stand firm in the truth. And the truth, for once, was finally on my side. But the story wasn't over, not even close. I didn't plan on writing another chapter to this story. Not after everything finally calmed down. Not after the storm eventually moved on and left my life blessedly quiet again. But life has a way of circling back, landing precisely where you least expect it. And sometimes, closure doesn't arrive when you want it to. It appears when you're already healed enough not to need it. This is how I know the story is truly over. 8 months after the investigation, I left Chicago, packed my life into 3 suitcases and a shipping box. I moved to Denver, a place I'd only ever seen in photos. Mountain silhouettes at sundown, crisp air that practically tasted clean, quiet streets where no one knew my name or my heartbreak. I started fresh, not metaphorically, literally. I became a freelance graphic designer, working with small businesses, indie brands, and a few tech startups who didn't care about my past as long as I delivered beautiful work on time. My days became simple, gentle, predictable in the safest ways. Morning coffee while the sun climbed over the Rockies, client calls from a cozy co-working space that smelled like pine and pastries, evening walks where I could breathe without bracing for impact. Peace is underrated until you've lived without it. I made friends, real friends, people who liked me without knowing my history, without the weight of my past shaping their opinions. And then I met Lucas Bennett, not in a whirlwind, not in some cinematic, dramatic collision of fate, just at a local art fair, where he asked me if the print I bought looked like a storm learning to forgive itself. I laughed. He smiled. And just like that, life introduced me to someone who didn't see me as broken, someone who met me exactly where I was, not ahead of me, not expecting me to catch up. Just beside me, steady, warm, honest. The first time he said he loved me, I didn't feel fear claw up my throat. I felt safe. That's how I knew I was healed. Almost a year after everything with Evan exploded, I attended a marketing conference in Boulder. I wore a simple black dress with sleeves that made me feel confident. Lucas dropped me off with a kiss on the cheek and a whisper, "You're going to be incredible." I walked into that conference hall ready to network, learn, and maybe land a few new clients. Nothing emotional, nothing heavy, just work. For the first few hours, it was exactly that. Panels, workshops, coffee chats with people wearing name tags and polished smiles. Then, near the afternoon keynote, I felt a strange pressure in my chest, a tug, a flicker of déjà vu. I looked across the room, and I saw him. Evan Hale, thinner, paler, exhausted in a way makeup couldn't hide. His shoulders hunched like he was bracing for a blow no one was throwing. His eyes dull, not with remorse, but with defeat. He was standing alone at a coffee station, hunched over his phone like it was the only thing still tethering him to reality. And then, as if sensing the shift in the room, he looked up. Our eyes met. For 3 seconds. Only 3. But they were the longest 3 seconds of the last year. I expected something to rise in me. Anger, sadness, bitterness, curiosity, anything. Instead, nothing. Absolutely nothing. I gave him a polite, impersonal nod, the kind you give a distant acquaintance you vaguely recall from college. He nodded back. No smile, no recognition, just an acknowledgement between two people who once knew each other's souls and now knew nothing at all. Then he looked away, turned, and walked out of the conference hall. No confrontation, no apology, no drama, just emptiness. And it was perfect. Later that day, during a networking mixer, I ran into someone from Evan's old company. She recognized my name and said cautiously, "Oh, wow, you dated Evan, right? Before everything happened?" I blinked. "Before what, exactly?" She hesitated. Then, in a low voice, she said, "The investigation ended badly, really badly. Evan and Alexis were both fired. Her husband leaked internal emails. There were financial discrepancies, hotel logs, travel expenses. It was a mess." She paused before adding, "Alexis's marriage ended. Evan had trouble finding work for a long time. People talk in this industry. You know how it is." I didn't say anything. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel anything. He had made his choices, and life had delivered the consequences, quiet and precise. What I did feel, deep, calm, steady, was gratitude. Not for his fall, but for my escape. For the strength I didn't know I had. For the man waiting for me at home. For the life I rebuilt piece by piece with my own hands. Just before leaving the conference, I stepped outside to call Lucas. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in soft pinks and golds. "Hey," he answered, voice warm. "How's the conference?" "It's good," I said, and I meant it. "It's really good." When we hung up, I took a deep breath, clean and full. The woman I was 1 year ago would have collapsed upon seeing Evan again. The woman I was now barely blinked. Healing isn't forgetting. Healing is remembering without breaking. Healing is recognizing the lesson, not repeating the wound. As I walked away, I realized something profound. Evan had never ruined me. He had revealed me, revealed my strength, revealed my boundaries, revealed the parts of me that deserved more than the version of love he offered. And I had finally given those parts of myself the life they deserved. This chapter was over, and I was finally free.